Chapter 10. The chapter about the stick. Comparing oneself with others. The group of 6 monks fought with and chased off the group of 17 monks and took their rooms. The Buddha laid down a rule against violence and spoke the following verse. 129. Everyone trembles at the stick. Everyone is in fear of death. Comparing oneself with others, one should not hurt or have them hurt. Comparing oneself with others. The group of 6 monks fought with and chased off the group of 17 monks and took their rooms, which caused the latter to threaten them. The Buddha laid down a rule against threatening and spoke this verse. 130. Everyone trembles at the stick. For all of them, their life is dear. Comparing oneself with others, one should not hurt or have them hurt. The desire for happiness. As the Buddha went on his alms round, he saw a group of boys who were beating a snake to ward it off. He admonished them not to hurt other beings with this verse. 131. One who harms with a stick beings who also desire happiness, while seeking happiness himself, won't find happiness after death. 132. One who harms not with a stick those who also desire happiness, while seeking happiness himself, will find happiness after death. Do not retaliate. Venerable Kundadana was followed round by a goddess due to his behavior in a previous existence, and the monks, thinking he was breaking his vow of chastity, incited the king to drive him out. The king believed in his innocence, though, and gave him an invitation. The monks blamed Venerable Kundadana, and he unjustly blamed them in return. The Buddha admonished him thus. 133. Don't say anything harsh. Spoken to, they might answer back to you. Arrogant talk brings misery, and they might strike you with a stick. 134. If you make no sound like a gong that is broken, you are like one who has attained nibbana. Contention is not to be found. Life is driven out by old age and death. The great lay supporter Upāsikā asked 500 women why they observed the fast day. They answered they did so because they want a husband, children, release from their husbands, or heaven. The Buddha explained that despite all their suffering, most beings still only desire rebirth, and then he spoke this verse. 135. Like a cowherd with stick drives cattle to pasture, so do old age and death drive life out of beings. The fool suffers through his deeds. A leading supporter of the Buddha, Kassapa, recognized a thief as such, and the scoundrel conceived a grudge which led him to commit many wicked deeds, including burning his fields and burning down the perfume cottage. He went to hell and was later reborn in the world of the ghosts, where Venerable Moggallana saw him. The Buddha explained how he got there and spoke this verse. 136. The fool does not yet understand the wicked deeds he is doing. The stupid one is consumed by his deeds as by a burning fire. The fruit of unjust punishment. Venerable Moggallana was murdered by brigands acting on behalf of the naked ascetics. The Buddha explained that in a past life, being swayed by his wife, he had murdered his parents, which was why he died in the way in the present life. And then he spoke these verses. 137. Whoever offends with a stick, those who are inoffensive and harmless will quickly fall into one of the following 10 states. 138. harsh feelings and loss of his wealth, and the breakup of the body, or even heavy affliction, or surely he will lose his mind. 139. There may be danger from the king, or slander that is terrible. He may suffer from loss of kin, or from the destruction of wealth. 140. Also his houses may be consumed by flames and fire, and at the death of the body that foolish one will arise in the underworld. Asceticism is not enough. A householder went forth, but first has a cottage built for himself with provisions stored up, slaves and many requisites so as to live comfortably. The monks complained to the Buddha, who reproved the monk. In a tiff, the monk threw off his robe, and out of spite declared he would go round half naked. The Buddha reproved him yet again with this verse. 141. Not nakedness, matted hair, mud, fasting, lying on stony ground, dust, dirt, or striving while squatting, can purify a mortal who has not removed uncertainty. Character is all important. The minister Santati was given a rich reward by the king, including a dancing girl, but later she died. Distressed, Santati went to the Buddha, who gave him a teaching whereby he attained Nibbana and soon after passed away still dressed in his finery. The monks asked whether he can be considered a Brahmin or an ascetic, and the Buddha confirmed his status with this verse. 142. Even if he were to adorn himself, but is peaceful, trained, settled, spiritual, and has put aside the stick, he is a Brahmin, an ascetic, a monastic. The restrained are aware of their faults. The poor man Pāḷi was ordained by Venerable Ānanda, grew fat and discontented, and thought to return to the lay life. But finding his previous rags, he took them as a meditation subject, and soon became an arhat. The Buddha confirmed his status to the monks and spoke these verses. 143. Whatever person in the world is restrained by conscience and is aware of his fault is like a good horse that is restrained by whip. 144. Like a good horse restrained by whip, you should be ardent and intense, having faith, virtue, energy, concentration, investigation. One who has understanding and good conduct, also mindfulness, will surely abandon this not insignificant suffering. The mild straighten themselves out. The novice Sukha saw that irrigators, fletchers, and carpenters mastered the object they work with, and realized if they can master unconscious things, he could master his mind. He asked his teacher, Venerable Sariputta, to bring his food, and by striving alone, he became an arhat. The Buddha then spoke this verse about him. 145. Course makers lead water, fletchers straighten arrows, carpenters straighten wood, the mild master themselves.